Story is everywhere, y'all. Story is everywhere. And it is especially in business. And that's what we're about to talk about today. And it needs to be in your business. Okay. So the good thing is, I just happen to be pretty darn good at helping people sniff out their stories and the ones that are very impactful in their business. So the thing though is, before I figured out what was the right thing to do, I was doing all the wrong things. You would think, as a storyteller, I would have known the value of story in business, and yet I didn't, because I listened to all the coaches. I listened to everybody who was talking about benefits and features and stuff of the things that I offered. But in truth, that did not make me stand out. That only made me work harder. That only made me build frustration. That only made me overwhelmed because I was doing all the right things, y'all. I was doing all the things. Anybody else? I forgot to share stories. I forgot the value of stories. So this is one of the top mistakes that I see entrepreneurs making and small business owners making, is forgetting the value and the power in your story. What I want you to consider when it comes down to kids and stories is this: they get to see themselves inside that story. But when you are sharing a story with your customer, your client, your audience member, what that is doing is allowing them to see themselves in your journey. And if they are unable to see themselves in your journey, they're not your customer, one, or you're not sharing a story that has that emotional reach and impact. So stories are not just for kids. It is a beautiful, persuasive, and filled with integrity type of marketing to draw in your aligned audience. One of the reasons we tell kids stories is that we want to affect their own actions. Oftentimes, we share a story, like if you think about the Little Red Riding Hood, for instance, that is definitely not a kid's story necessarily, but there was a moral to it. Essence and morality. There was a moral to it. There was a theme in it, in which it was, don't stray off the path. There's danger waiting for you when you do. And so if you understand the impact of stories is its ability to persuade or to influence our actions, the audience's actions, then you will understand how powerful stories actually are. So if I want a customer or a client to do something, click on my image, download my freebie, my paid product, book time on my calendar for a paid session, sign up for my course, or whatever it is that you actually want to call them into action or CTA them into doing, a story is a very persuasive way of doing that without losing integrity. You'll find that persuasive marketing is much stronger in creating a community of people who go to bat for you, who spread the word for you, who continue to buy from you. Stories have the ability of letting people see themselves on your journey. Stories have the ability of persuading people to do something that you want them to do. And stories also have the ability of showing them a world that they have not yet been exposed to or have not actually considered. Stories are super persuasive. This is why movies work. This is why TV works. So in being able to influence the way people see themselves, influence people seeing themselves on your journey, influence people making an action that you want to, stories are literally the most powerful tool that we have as a business owner. So I just want you to understand then that stories are not just for kids. They are for who you say they are. The other myth to that then is what I get a lot of times from my corporate clients is that stories are too personal, that they're not high level enough for business. So I'm going to talk to you about a nationwide brand here, Coca-Cola. Nationwide, international, let me change that, international brand of Coca-Cola. And they tell story a lot of times without even saying words, right? Because as I told you earlier today, story is everywhere. But what I did not expound on is that stories are not necessarily told in just words. Stories are also visual. Stories are also auditory. Stories are through art, through music, through movies, as I just talked about, through literature, but also through your ads, also through your speeches, also through those different ways that you show up. So let's talk about Coca-Cola really quickly. Now, Coca-Cola is a beverage brand. One of their most persuasive tactics that they actually use quite a bit is this. I want you to remember being in a car, listening on the radio, or just being somewhere where you can hear this Coca-Cola commercial. It starts with the bottle top popping off and falling onto the floor, or if we're talking in can. And then you have that fizz sound, right? Those bubbles fizzing. Neither one of those are persuasive enough to get you to do something. But it's this third thing that I'm about to share with you that is where that CTA is, that is where that call to action is, that is where that persuasion is. And that is in the very next thing that happens after you hear somebody glugging, and that is the, there's your persuasion. Why is it? Because it's tied to the emotion of relief, satisfaction, quenching of thirst. And what happens now is that idea is planted in your head that Coca-Cola is going to bring you that satisfaction. Coca-Cola is going to bring you that relief. Coca-Cola is going to quench your thirst. You need a Coke. Go get it. Go in your fridge, go in the store, whatever. It's on your brain now. That is the power of story. You want people to feel the same way about your product or service. There is no point in doing all this work, creating all this juice, making this amazing product, or offering this super great service and getting lost in the crowd because you forget the power of story, which is the emotional journey you take your customers on. Now, I'm going to dive deeper into my free class, and it's coming up. And that is Tribe Magic, the 5-step system to selling anything with story.